Well, hello, everyone. We are back with Rediscover Radiance, and today we are talking about pitching our value. And that's a very scary thing for many people. I know that I've been through that journey as well as Lizzie. So today we're going to be talking through some tips, some tricks, how we can stay genuine and authentic in ourselves, and really kind of finding out when do we know when our value is shining or not getting the light of day? So, what might be some warning signs? What might be some steps or processes that we can do to be introspective and to really know that we are in the right spot and we are sharing our light with individuals to make people and businesses better, and just overall the flow and the structure of that continuous momentum. I think that's really important. Lizzie and I, we were just speaking before this podcast, and we were talking about, when do we really evaluate the tips and the skills and the knowledge and the abilities that we have? It's generally like, oh, well, I'm looking for a new job, or I'm in a turning point, right? I want to go into my own business, or things of that nature. And we were really just highlighting the importance of doing this organically each and every day, doing something to show, hey, this is a problem that I see that we may be having, and here are some ways in which my skill set, my abilities are able to help you. And that's, again, that doesn't always roll off the tongue. Some people are natural born influencers, and others, it's just like death to say what I'm great at and what I can do for you. It seems kind of car salesman-y. And no one really enjoys that vibe. I guess I could say a blanket statement like that. That's definitely what I've experienced and heard too. I don't care for that approach. I'm all about establishing value and what are the problems that you're having today and where do you want to be tomorrow? So, Lizzie, we have traditionally started our conversation with some intentionality. So why should today be any different? So when we think about intentionality of really knowing where our light is shining, what type of intentions do you want to express to the viewers today?
Yeah, I just want to have an authentic conversation around, it's okay to be lost in this topic. It's okay to be uncomfortable when it comes to communicating our value, or even the word pitch. When we think of pitching, elevator pitch, that sort of thing, our minds kind of go to that movie scene where you have the nervous employee on the elevator with the CEO. They're trying to, give an elevator pitch, and then it ends horribly, with that person trying to desperately get off of the elevator, get away from that person. Or, maybe we've been in some sort of growth, whether that's a webinar or, going through a job seeking process where we were trying to pitch our value and it just fell flat. We didn't feel that, it was really, we were understood in that process, right? And so when we talk about pitching our value, it's more about the essence of who we are, and the light of who we are shining through, and that being organic and authentic, because we can't, our essence and our being and the way that we solve problems, all of that plays into our value. And so the intention for me is just to be authentic with you all. I haven't always done this the best way, throughout my career. I haven't always been comfortable with doing this, throughout my career. And so this discussion today is all on things that I've learned, things that I've had to put in practice, having an essence partner in Karen to help me get through certain hurdles and obstacles that I was facing within my career when it came to me being comfortable or knowing how to go about doing this. So it's okay if you're not comfortable with this. This is the place for you. This is the conversation for you. So that's my intention.
I love that. I love that. And my intention, as always, is to be honest and open with each of you, right? We are all people trying to find our way through. And, when you look at others and that comparison of, well, gosh, they've really got it together or they don't have it together, all of those are not really serving kind of the end goal. But if we can really have that opportunity and kind of learn and grow through our own experiences and really be able to cast an intention of, I am who I am, right? I've shared with you guys a bit about my corporate career, right, spanning over 2 decades, and now in my own business, right, having to get really comfortable with who I am and what offerings I have to individuals. One thing that I have found in getting comfortable with providing my value is really understanding that not everybody is ready for the services that I provide. and while I think it's the best thing since sliced bread, and lots of great research kind of shows what coaching and professional development can do for an individual and really get them to their A game. If you're not comfortable or ready to be in that position, no amount of forcing your value on someone will ever ring true, right? There has to be that readiness, whether it be individual readiness or organizational readiness. And, a few years back, 2020, when, kind of the layoffs happened for myself, I had a very near dear friend and colleague that had given me this plaque, and I don't know how great y'all can see it, but it says, know your worth, then add tax. And I have it in my office. And the reason that I have it in my office is because I think that through the comparison game, through the different biases that we hold, that we just are not challenging necessarily our mindset, we kind of forget the powerhouse that we have. And I see that a lot of times when I'm processing strengths with individuals. They didn't even realize that was a superpower that they had because they just do it so effortlessly. And then to someone else, that's just like, how can I be that flawless, right? How can I be that great at doing that impact? And so, really getting understanding of what you're great at is so important. And when Lizzie and I were talking, like she was saying about her kind of career growth and things like that, as I was coaching her, I was talking to her, I said, how comfortable are you with kind of putting your value out there and not necessarily pitching because that sounds salesy? Do they even understand what it is that you do? So Lizzie and I are both kind of in the huge industry kind of umbrella of human resources, right? What does that mean, right? There's learning and development arm, right? There's business partner arms, there's all kinds of different arms. And so when people think of HR, right, they might think of like Toby from Office Space or, someone that, it's like, oh, you got to go see HR, right? Like you got to go to the principal's office. And so, I have in the past definitely, and probably still today, let's be honest, have made the mistake of, well, people know exactly what value, they see my strengths, they know it, right? Like those dots are so easily connectable, but really finding the time to understand that not everybody gets what I do. Lizzie, have you found that as well? When I asked you that question, what kind of came top of mind for you?
Yeah, I definitely, even though we know, obviously we're in the role, right? There's always a perception on each and every one of us, what we do, what we don't do. And so knowing that there are perceptions out there, because we're all human beings, we're going to have perceptions. You have perceptions of what, marketing does. You have perception of what, and insert whatever role a firefighter does, right? We all have these perceptions. And thinking, when we think about our area of human resources, I know there's not a lot of good perceptions around the field sometimes, and hearing horror stories about, people's interactions with human resources. Maybe you're in a C-suite position and there's, you're in a decision-making type of role. And there's definitely perceptions there. Coming into the workplace, we bring perceptions with us from where we worked previously. We bring those experiences with us. And so in the workplace, we're all consistently dealing with other people's perceptions. And it's easy for us to not think about it in that lens, but just assume, maybe because we're in a highly visible role, or maybe we're in a role that's more behind the scenes, and we just assume that people should know, and they automatically know what we do because of our title, or because of different initiatives and different things that you're doing within the organization. But really, what is important here is that, we're all people. We should not be defined by a title. Okay. We need to be defined. And really the point of this is for you to be seen as an individual within your sphere of influence, right? And so thinking beyond our titles, thinking more along the lines of our brand. How do others view us? Are we a problem solver? Are we open-minded? Are people comfortable around us? Those are really when we're talking about perceptions that people have about us, oftentimes people navigate to folks that they're comfortable with, right? They navigate to people that they feel are not gonna necessarily be judgmental, but are gonna help them to solve a problem. And so when we're thinking about influence and we're thinking about how do people perceive us, those are some of the things that we need to think about when we're coming outside of the box of our value and what we're bringing to the organization, what we're bringing into a role. Because, if, goodness forbid, you were to be hit by a bus, your position could be filled, within a month's time, right? But what is your legacy in your organization? What is your legacy on your team? What is the legacy that you have with your boss and others around you? Are you known as a problem solver? Are you known, what is it that you're solving for the organization? What's that unique thing that you're bringing to the organization? That is really the deep work that only we can do. We're the only ones that can go inside and say, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know I'm comfortable doing. This is what I'm here to do. This is my mission, my purpose. And so having to do that deep work really starts with ourselves. So when Karen posed this question to me, I was so initially perplexed because I had never thought along those lines and thought deeper into, I was like, well, what do you mean? They should just know what I do. I mean, why wouldn't anybody, just know what I do? But she really got me to start thinking along those lines of, okay, but what are you there to solve? What do they value? That was a very important question that she asked me. And I was like, you know what? I never asked. So that's really the deep work when we're talking on this topic about, pitching our value. Do we even know? Do we know what is the issue at hand in the organization that we're in? To Karen's point, not everybody is going to be ready for our services, right? It's a journey. Very rarely do you show up in an organization and they're ready to change everything about what they do overnight. It's very rare situation that you would ever find yourself in that situation. So there could be a desire there to utilize your problem solving skills, right? For you to make an impact and make a difference. There's definitely opportunity there, but it's really looking at it through the lens of a journey and understanding, okay, I don't care if you've been in the role 3 years, 10 years, 15 years. If you don't know what it is that your supervisor values, if you don't know what it is that your C-suite values, that your CEO, that your board values at your organization, it's very hard for you to position yourself as someone who's able to solve their problems because you don't know what the problem is. And many times we make the mistakes of going through the day-to-day motions of doing our role, of bringing value to the role that we're in, right? But are we bringing value to the overall organization? Are we preparing that organization for us to really, step into our full potential there? So I'll kick it over to you, Karen, to, kind of, what are some ways that somebody could start the journey of going about understanding their organization at a deeper level and the problems there?
Yeah. Great insight, right? And it's so funny because sometimes our biggest solutions just come from the analysis of ourselves, right? And just those questions that we never had thought about before. And oftentimes, right, you talk about, you got to find the problem, right, that needs to be solved for that individual or for that team or for whoever that you're trying to instill your services upon. And I'll be honest, there are many times people cannot conclude what the problem is. So if they don't know what the problem is and you're kind of outside looking in, or even inside the organization and you're trying to serve, a business unit and they don't know, then where the heck do you begin, right? And so, you hear about the terms like pain points, right? Like, what are the outcomes that you're receiving that are not helpful? And so when you start to kind of layer back, I think about the See, Do, Get model by Stephen Covey, right? And kind of talking about, if you continue to do the same things over and over again, the observations, the actions, the outcomes are always going to be the same. I always kind of challenge looking at it from the other side when you're feeling stuck and not knowing, is like, take a moment and calibrate what are all the outcomes that you're receiving in life and work that you do not want. And that is kind of the starting point of, okay, so this is the outcome. What are the precursors to that? And if you can kind of backtrack your steps and understand that, you'll be more comfortable to be able to isolate and pinpoint and say, okay, here's a new course of action that we're going to try to do. And here's the problem that we're solving. Oftentimes I get called into organizations and it's just, the productivity is low, the morale is low, turnover is high, right? These are things that you can put on a scoreboard and you can actually track. The problem is it's kind of like throwing spaghetti up against a wall. what one's actually going to stick? And so to really answer your question, Lizzie, and kind of the conversation that you and I had was really establishing what that value looks like. And really saying, okay, here's where we're at today. Where do we want to be at tomorrow? That's why I say that the convincing is really, really tough if you don't immediately get into more of the head of your client or your inside person that you're working with in your organization. If you're not providing value for them, then it's kind of like, what's in it for me? And that's not necessarily selfish. That's helping the individual see what you do. I don't know about you, but I can stand here, right, and I can tell you all the assessments I do, all of the coaching byproducts, I can tell you all this great stuff. But until that matches a core need that you have, then it's going to kind of fall on flat, kind of on deaf ears rather. So, executives typically, and I say typically because we are all different. We all have different kind of agendas per se or goals. But we do have some very definitive commonalities between human needs, right? We want to be heard. And so that's why the power of a needs assessment comes in. Whether you're on the inside of an organization or the outside of an organization, is to really dive in and say, okay, here's where we're at as a company. Here's where I'm at as an individual. I want to go from here to there. And I'm feeling stuck on how to get there. Or I'm just overall not feeling fulfilled in my role. How do I get there? And other people can come in very clearly. I need DISC training. And it's like, fantastic. DISC is a wonderful tool. Let's talk a little bit more. And they really don't even understand the value of it until you do whatever the service is that they're asking for you to do. And then they'll see the layers. It's kind of like seeing is believing. And again, I think when we're talking about pitching our value or influencing people to partake in the value or services that we offer, I think it's when we're kind of convincing someone that they need it. that's kind of a recipe for disaster. Working in organizations, we throw the big word culture. Are they receptive to new ideas or not receptive? Do I feel like I'm being valued inside the organization or not? Oftentimes that's because the readiness might just not be there. And so that's one of the big joys that I have in the work that I do now, is that when I do, I don't do a lot of just blanket, like anyone come and have a conversation with me. The majority of my work is through referrals, people that have seen the value, know the value, and are sharing with other people. So, obviously creating awareness, knowing what they need, again, executives typically like, how is this going to solve a problem for me? Not that I can do this and I can do that. That's one thing that I've definitely learned over the last several years, is that, you get bombarded with all the marketing of what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to have this amazingly beautiful website. You're supposed to have your elevator pitch. You're supposed to have, and then through all the supposed to haves, you get really bogged down and you sometimes forget even who the heck you are, instead of this kind of silhouette of what I'm supposed to be. And the real deal is I connect genuinely with individuals, and I don't have a big strategy session before I go in. I have pillars of what I do, but I listen. I ask those questions like, what do you value? Where do you want to see your business in 5 years? What are some hurdles, right? So through those powerful coaching questions, then we can strategize and then attach the services that, human resources like yourself, Lizzie, like these are all the day-to-day tasks. And the other part, that I had kind of asked you when we were going through this is like, what is it that would be the cost of not doing some of those mundane everyday things? Oftentimes people don't know that. You think about, a road show to kind of explain what your teams do and the impact and the ramifications, the whys. This can be done in company newsletters, right? Spotlighting different departments and teams and how they're supporting the key performance indicators or the overall business goals and objectives. Oftentimes, when I'm working with leaders is, again, no matter where the person falls in the hierarchy of the organization, those core business outcomes should be owned by all. And that really just creates that inclusion of, we're all here to solve the similar problem, and here's how we're going to go about doing it. So really creating awareness is where I'm seeing the biggest impact, and really asking the questions. So I think a lot of that starts with storytelling. So telling the story of who you are and what you are. And I've done many activities and exercises where I try to get down to my niche or what have you. And there's some differentiators, right, between some terminology that I think some people use intermittently, right, as industry, right? So industry of like human resources, or industries such as like insurance, or, that's your specialty is human resources inside maybe a manufacturing firm or a law firm, or, agriculture, or whatever your actual industry is. And then, whether you're on the inside or the outside, the value proposition that we're basically talking about here is, what is your niche, right? Like, what is the problem that you solve uniquely, and how do you get that accomplished? So when you think about storytelling, talk to me a little bit, Lizzie, about your journey. Obviously, when I asked you the question about what they value, how did it shift gears for you from the original idea of what you plan to do to show your worth and value to the organization to what actually happened?
Yeah. Well, you said something, Karen, that is so true. Seeing is believing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the theme of what I'm about to say. I thought initially, I would, when it came to me communicating my value, okay, I thought initially, okay, this, maybe I should put together a presentation. Maybe I should, take some sort of education route in terms of trying to educate people on what I do. It's something that you will see, in different advice articles that you read, and different things that you may read on LinkedIn, different things that you may see out there. Mm-hmm. But it really started with that question of, what is it that your organization values? What is it that the decision makers in your organization values? And so I asked the questions. I started to ask those questions, and I wanted to come into it. It's like, okay, I know what I can do upon self-reflection. I said, okay, I know I'm a problem solver. It's not that I just solve problems. It's also how I solve problems, et cetera, that I feel that's where my value lies in what I'm bringing to an organization. So first I was just very curious. I said, you know what? I need to stop assuming things myself. I need to stop having a perception. It's easy for me in my role to come into an organization and say, okay, this is everything that's being done wrong here, right? But people are not ready for that service yet. It's like an onion. You have to peel back the layers. And so as I started peeling back the layers and just seeking knowledge, seeking information, understanding what is it that is keeping people up at night, that was very important to me, to understand that. And so as I started to get some intel on the organization, different perspectives from different decision makers within my organization, it started to paint a picture of, oh, this is where the organization is, and I have to meet them where they are. It's not so much about me just putting together and educating people on what I can do. It's so hard for them to see it if they don't have any examples, if they're not able to see me in action, so to speak. And so for me, the storytelling, as I started to learn about what the pain points were, that's when I was able to say, oh, this is how I'm going to align my storytelling to what is the actual issue at hand here. So I would go back to those individuals and I would say, hey, I heard what you were saying about X, Y, and Z problem that you're facing. Here's something that I did for another organization. Are you interested in me doing something similar here? And they kind of, like, oh, okay. Yeah. But here's, and then they would give me their view on how could I cater what I had done previously into this organization or this specific issue that they were facing. So they would volunteer, to give me even more intel on, okay, this is how they want me to go about it. So it's not just, I'm going to, take what I've done before and apply it here, but it's, they have a very specific problem that they want solved. And it's also about the way that you go about solving that problem that they feel is a solution, right? So storytelling for me, it didn't just start with me telling a story. I wanted to do that. I wanted to go and just tell the story and just educate people on my background and et cetera. But I first needed to peel back the onion layers, start to understand, what are some of the issues that are immediately need to be solved right now. Looking back at my career, looking back at what I've done and saying, well, have I ever solved this problem before? There were some problems, I'll be honest with you, there were some problems that I had not come across previously, and I had not solved those problems before. But I was able to at least, be educated on, okay, this is what they're needing to solve, so that I could start to speak to those things. I could start to speak into those things so they could see a way out. A lot of times people need, especially when we're talking about leadership, they want to know, they want to see, they have burning issues, right? And so it's so hard for them to see our value when they have a fire in front of them that they need to solve. So one of the things that I recommend is understanding what fires are your leadership currently trying to put out. Have you solved those problems in the past? If so, how did you solve those problems in the past? And revisiting that with them and saying, hey, I heard what you were saying about X, Y, and Z problem. I thought about that. Here's something that I done in a prior organization, or here's a solution here's something I feel could be a possible solution. What do you think? Right? Not just concluding it there, but also asking them, what do you think? Would you like me to do something like that here? Right? It invites them into the solution. People like to be invited into the solution. That's something that you can start to build that rapport, and they can start, seeing is believing, like what Karen said. And when you invite people into that solution, you're also allowing them to see how you're solving it, how you're going about solving it. And it really helps you to elevate your brand in the organization as you go about solving that problem. So it helps to get visibility. It helps your light shine, right? You don't want to just say, okay, I'm going to solve this, and then you go away and maybe you do solve it. But because people were not a part of that journey with you, they don't know what it took for you to solve that problem. And so one of the things that I'm learning is it's okay for other people to share in the solution. It's okay to invite people along as you go about solving that thing, because it helps you to build rapport with that person. It helps you for them to see how you go about doing it. And then once you have that experience with them, that's when they can start to trust. Because value and communicating your value, it does boil down to trust. And if the person trusts that what you're saying that you're able to solve, that you're able to do that thing.
Really great examples, and so true of part of the buy-in process with individuals. But it really starts with that genuine connection of, I really care about you helping, and then reminding people. I work with so many people that are really high achieving, and they're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, which is great. And sometimes they get into a new pickle or predicament, and then they're just like, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. And so just even that activity or that exercise of, tell me a time you faced something similar. What did you do? It tends to unlock people pretty quickly. And then also just brainstorming with people. Very helpful. A lot of the folks that I work with, I think that you brought up a really great point, is time. That has been age old. And I feel like in the last 4 years, it's been even more magnified, right? We're doing more with less. It seems like every year that's just continuously the problem. And so oftentimes when I'm talking with executives, they're just like, Karen, I just need people to get along. I just need people to do their jobs. And so essentially that's the value that I bring to people, is I help evaluate first and identify what people's strengths are, what they do extraordinarily well. And what's great about that is it's an energy booster. So when people are doing what they do well, they're motivated, they're engaged, they're excited, and they do it faster and better than their peer, because that's their bag, right? That's what they love. And so when we can kind of coordinate all those chess pieces, if you will, and look at our bigger business objective, look at our bigger goal or task that we're trying to do, well, people are going to get along better when they have understanding of, oh, that's Lizzie's worth. It's not her just providing me this data of turnover numbers and then making these off the wall suggestions. Sorry. And I know that they're not off the wall to you or to other people, but sometimes it's just like, I don't see how this turns into that, right? And that's
meeting people where they are. We got to meet people
where they're at. That's always the way that it is. And I think for me, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned too is, part of my strategic strength that I have is that I see 10 steps ahead and I talk fast. And so I tend to lose people on that journey, because it's like, well, I'm already like rearing up the finish line. And that's not a bragging thing at all. That's actually a bad thing, right? Because I can't go to the finish line without all the people there with me, right? And kind of having that commitment and that follow through. So it's probably the thing that I absolutely adore most about what I get to do, is I have the privilege of talking to people in a very raw, real way, for them to have those light bulb moments to say, oh, now I can go from I can't to now I can, and this is the way that I'm going to do it. Just like Lizzie's vivid example of, I thought I was just going to have to do another PowerPoint presentation. I thought I was going to have to just tell them everything that I did and the why. Now, instead, I just connected genuinely with someone of influence to now create something new and different that is going to be helpful to their bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with different personalities and tasks and the way people think. Sometimes people need thinking time. Some people are just like, tell me how it's going to be. I don't need to know all the details. Other people are consuming details like it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they need all of that stuff. And so really navigating that human side, that of human performance, and being able to get people in a situation, right? We can't motivate people, but we can create the conditions to get them motivated. And that's truly such a great thing that you can do, is to showcase wins, right? Showcase where you guys have been winning as a team, winning as an individual, starting to act as if, right? As if it's already happening. And before long, you have that kind of buy-in and people are believing it because, like we said, they're now seeing it in action and they're seeing the interpretations of that. And so as I'm continuing on my entrepreneurial journey, I'm realizing testimonials are everything, right? That's the biggest kind of advertisement that I can do, because these are real people that have gone through real situations and have enacted change. They've gotten clarity in their lives. They've gotten focus. They've realized when their light is shining and when it's not, and who's ready and who's not. And if we can do all of those things, I mean, what a great way we can really rediscover our radiance and make sure that we're focused in the right areas. I know a couple podcasts ago, right, we talked about, right, the value that you produce, right? Some people can't see it through their eyes, right, their lens. And so that's a really prime example, is everyone's kind of at a different journey, not right, wrong. Okay, it just is. It just is. And that personalization that sometimes we feel, I know I felt it. It's not my place. It's not my contract to get, or quite the opposite. When they come easily, that's what I find with influence, is that it's not selling, right? It's meeting somebody where they're at in a time and space where they need it. And being able to marry those two things and see the return on investment is probably one of the most satisfying things for all parties involved. So I know we've been chatting a long time, and I know we shared quite a few kind of tips and strategies by knowing yourself, asking yourself what value you bring, recounting your past successes, and how you can really demonstrate, not just talk about, but demonstrate to others. And then also, just the being flexible and adaptable based on different people's styles and work patterns and behaviors, and getting the right people doing the right tasks, right? The art of delegation. So much of this, we want to keep things so tight to the chest. And, Lizzie had kind of said, well, my goodness, like bringing that person in, right? It's okay. It's okay to be at that journey, because I know at the end, we'll all get there at the same time. So Lizzie, what final comments do you have for our viewers?
Yeah, so I will say that this whole exercise should not lead to burnout. If you're feeling burned out, if you're feeling overwhelmed at the prospect, it's probably the method that you're looking at in terms of solving this issue of, your sphere of influence, understanding the value that you're bringing into that organization, or your clients understanding the value that you're bringing. This should not, just suck the essence out of you in trying to do this. Okay, so just remember, it should be an organic, authentic process, right? You're seeking information, you're listening to others, and then in listening to others and really understanding the problems that they have and how you can help them solve those problems. It's going to help you in the long run, because you're not going to waste your energy on trying to prove things to them that they don't find value in. And I'm just telling you from experience, once I went and I was like, you know what, it's not about me educating other people, it's about me educating myself. Mm-hmm. It just opened up so many doors for me just organically. that I had been hoping for, would open up for me. But I just wasn't going about it in a way that was effective. So I really encourage you. It just starts with asking questions. It starts with curiosity, and just having a heart for really wanting to solve problems there. And that's where you're going to really see a big breakthrough for you in your organization, with your clients, and within your sphere of influence.
Yeah, love that, Lizzie. Well, we'd love to hear from you guys, right? How have you been able to really create some influence and have some magnificent changes within yourself, within your teams? We'd love to hear them in the chat, to reach out to us. With that, we will leave you until next time. Stay radiant.
Bye.
Bye.